Hello, everybody. We're we're talking about big change today. So if you're interested in coaching, if you're interested in going through big change yourself and how to tackle that, if you're interested in how to introduce big change in your organization or how to not just survive change but thrive through it, then stay tuned for Ericsson Live. Hello and welcome everybody to another episode of Ericsson Live. This is the first one in our 2-month block all around embracing change and VUCA. VUCA being a wonderful acronym that's been flying around for the last couple of years. Volatile, uncertain, um, complex. I'm always tempted to say chaotic, complex and ambiguous. So, we have an amazing panel with us today. I'm going to show them to you really quickly. You can wave everybody to say hi or not. If you're too dignified for that, that's completely fine. I understand. So these are the amazing folks that are going to be discussing about this today. And we're going to start off with Guy Woods. Guy is an Ericsson certified coach, lead teaching assistant, and alumni liaison for Ericsson's graduate community. He aims to activate people's passions, motivations, and inspirations to help people achieve their unique definition of success. Since graduating from the Art and Science of Coaching in 2015, he has been passionate about making coaching relatable and accessible to all. He has worked with individuals, startups, and companies around the world to help them champion change and create, promote, and sustain powerful conversations which make a positive difference in their own lives and in the lives of others. Guy became an Ericsson teaching assistant soon after his graduation and has remained dedicated to support Ericsson's team of facilitators and diverse online community of learners and graduates throughout their coaching journey. As Ericsson alumni liaison, he has been working closely with Ericsson, its partners, and alumni in finding new and meaningful ways to strengthen our alumni community and nurture their success. In addition to his work as a coach, Guy works as a journalist and communications strategist based in Dublin, Ireland. Prior to becoming a certified coach, Guy worked in the Dublin headquarters of Google and Facebook, where he witnessed firsthand both the opportunities and challenges of staying truly connected and in a constantly changing, hyper connected society. Harnessing the power of social media, Guy stays true to the Ericsson principles and encourages open, solution focused conversations with over 120,000 followers in Ireland and around the world. He gave his first TEDx talk in 2019 on the power of solution focused thinking, highly recommended, by the way. Solution focused thinking in a world crowded with conversations which can leave you feeling overwhelmed, negative, and often hopeless. So, on that happy note, let me just welcome you, Guy. Um, let us together say hello to everybody that's watching right now. We have a bunch of people already logged in and watching us. And everybody, before I hand the microphone over to Guy, and Shanas is already ahead of me, I would love to know, where are you joining us from? So Shanas, I mean, your name, I'm probably saying it wrong, so I'm really sorry, is watching us from Azerbaijan. So welcome, welcome. Um, so we are representing quite a big chunk, I'd say, of the world today. So Guy, we know you're in Ireland. Ravi is in Nepal, which I've never spoken to a person from Nepal or in Nepal. So this is a wonderful first for me. Viktoria is still in Hungary.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I
still
am
in
still
Hungary, but
currently here.
also has a base in the US. And Paul is in Canada, but also has a very strong presence in China. So we're already covering, I think, a pretty nice spectrum there of the blue ball that we're living in on. Laura is joining us from Nairobi, Jennifer from Germany, Abir from Saudi Arabia, Nursel from Turkey, and Namita from India. So you're filling in quite a bit of the
Oh
gaps there,
well.
everybody. So that's really amazing. Thank you. Moldova, Julia is joining us. Sepide, as almost always, from Canada. Thank you so much for being here again, Sepide. Monica from Poland. So, international festivities. Catherine from Smithers in British Columbia, Canada. Did not know that that existed. Amazing. So thank you for bringing that to our attention. So Guy, thank you for bearing with me as I'm just joining the global community, but as our alumni liaison, that must be really exciting for you as well.
It's amazing, and one of the reasons why I wanted to come on your little show again is because I just love this interaction with not just people here on the panel, but people around the world. And I think one of the things that makes Ericsson so special is that it's truly global, and it's essentially it's a global solution focused movement. And just look at all the people here that are interested in discussing change from wherever they are in the world. Change is something that everybody um, has a very special relationship with, and their own local context and flavor to what change means in their local community or for themselves. And I think it's amazing. I can't wait when Ericsson launches its alumni activities to get to know more people just like me and just like everyone here, and just get to know what these things mean for you. Yeah.
Yeah, just to be clear, this is not my little show. This is our baby that we create together. So
No,
just
no.
um, right, and you'll let us know. We'll get you on when there is substantive change and big news to share about the alumni program, right?
Amazing positive changes happening right now. There's so much to share, and I can't share too much, but we're really listening to what people want most and need most, and we want to speak to people around the world and provide the most value for time and energy, and just help people just get to what, as you said in your intro, to their idea of success as a coach, whatever that means for them, and just creating something amazing. Because the people that I've met as a learner in the art and science of coaching, and the coaches that I met are part of the magic that brings me to do more with Ericsson. It's what brought me here today. And I selfishly, I want more of that in my life, and I want to give people more of that in their lives as well. So I'm excited. And just briefly, change, why I wanted to do this. I've struggled with it. It's what brought me to coaching. It's what brought me to Ericsson. Change that was almost debilitating. And there's some good stuff. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to jump to the end of the conversation. There's something about coaching, and specifically solution focused coaching, that has a very special formula for change and how it can help us own it and kind of ride that change all the way to where we want to go. So I'm really excited to be here, and learn from all these wonderful fellow coaches on the panel as well.
Yeah, thank you so much, Guy. And yeah, Guy has been a guest on the show before, so if you want to, after this, you're saying I need more Guy in my life. There is a there is an episode
Who
from
doesn't?
right. What is it? February 24th. So one of the first streams, if you go back to the YouTube archives, you can look there, and it's amazing. And Guy goes into quite a bit of the change that he was going through then. So that is really something very meaningful to experience. Um, and here's an idea. On the liaison, on the alumni side of things, we know that a lot of alumni watch these streams. So if you're an alumna, and you would like to be in touch with Ericsson more, maybe that's one of the reasons why you're watching this. Just write in the chat. What is it that you would like to see in an alumni program? What is it that you're interested in? And just help Guy do his job and know what he is living, what expectations he's trying to live up to, which I'm thinking he's going to do a great job of. So yeah, give him some direction, and let him know what you are looking for in an alumni program and out of Ericsson in general. Wonderful. Great. Thank you for starting us off, Guy. Ravi, how about we go to you next? So
Sure.
yeah, so let me read your intro just real quick, just so that people know kind of what you're about, and then we can hear a little more about your particular relationship with change and how that has showed up in the work with your clients. So Ravi is an Ericsson certified professional coach and holds the International Coach Federation's designation of a professional certified coach. His passion for helping individuals, groups, and companies translates into helping leaders, executives, professionals, and businesses achieve their desired aspirations. He's also teaching assistant in the Art and Science of Coaching online program with Ericsson International, Vancouver, Canada. He holds a bachelor's degree in mass communication and an MBA with a specialization in finance. His previous avatars have included being a corporate banker and an outsourced sales professional serving Fortune 500 companies. So, Ravi, it sounds like you have gone through quite some change yourself. So, what's your relationship with change, broadly asking?
Great. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's almost 11 p.m. here. It's almost good night time here in Kathmandu, Nepal.
Thank you for being here.
No, it's lovely to join the conversation. And so for me, I think growing up, bouncing around from one country to the other, studying, and also in the working professional side of things, I've always been fascinated trying to set a goal and then evolving to achieve it. And it's almost like a hobby of sorts, so I see that, what do I have to do to get there? So yeah, I think just the way that I am built, I just like to sort of change and move to wherever it is. And so I've sort of taken that into a professional life, really. So when I work with professionals, businesses, or organizational leaders, executives, it's the same thing. You're here, how do we get there, right? And often there is that some sort of evolution is required because people are, aspirational. They're setting goals that require them to make some changes. And so fundamentally, most discussions I have are about change. It's, and we set that up right up when we are having that discussion. And so I really enjoy this process, partly because I think it comes naturally to me, but with coaching, what we do is we bring a system and a process to it, so it doesn't look like two friends having a conversation over coffee.
All right, wonderful.
And the clients actually walk away with something useful, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes. Coaching is definitely action oriented and more than just having an introspective session. And yeah, definitely. So Ravi, if you would you give us a little bit of an insight into who your clients are, just so we know a little bit about what kind of changes they might be going through?
Right. So business owners would be one. So I do cover business coaching, organizational coaching, personal coaching. So business owners typically, so just to use one example we are setting right now, a business owner has started another company. So this is more of a startup. So the change is basically you take the startup and now you need to set systems in place, everything from the vision, clarifying that, and things are a little chaotic. So we sort of build that vision, try to get there. And so that's one change. So they're sort of defining. So even the change needs to be defined in that case. In an organizational setting, it's can be a leader, usually leaders, executives, and the members of the executive committee. So sometimes it's career development. They're already successful heading an organization, but what next? How do they sort of navigate their future? Or it can be about issues like learning to they sort of want to create change, and so coaching can be around, let's say, how do we sort of build influence to get that outcome. So at the organizational level, for professionals, a lot of it can be career coaching or just other leadership coaching.
I'm about to kind of ask you a hen and an egg question. So is it more that people come and they say, I want to change, I have this big vision, or they come to you and they say, well, I don't know what's going on at all, I need you to coach me, I need you to give me that vision? Kind of what's coming first in terms of people's willingness to change or people's vision?
So I mean, rarely I think people articulate it really well. I think rarely does anybody come in my experience, say, I need to build a great vision, right? So in the discussion they have, we sort of, as a coach, I sort of try to figure out what aspect would be useful to them. And I get a sense of, sometimes organizations send their organizational documents and you can see sort of which part is missing. That can be one way of looking at it. Other is often we sort of work towards that vision. If they already have it, then it can be the execution part is where the coaching focuses. because without that, that vision can just be out there. But quite often it's a vision that part is often lacking. It's a very vaguely, or it's a very short-term vision. So that allows them to sort of then achieve far more than what they would have, if they set, let's say a bigger vision.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much for being here, Ravi, especially this late in the day. Excited to have you here. So let's move it over to Hungary and to Viktoria. Viktoria is an Ericsson professional certified and international coach and an International Coach Federation certified coach, and has been an Ericsson teaching assistant for the past year. Giving back to her alma mater is very important to her. As a small business owner herself, she has seen many people struggle unnecessarily. She has worked with over 48 business owners on a monthly basis just last year. Her proprietary program has been a great success for years. Her work is to bridge the gap between the dream business owners. I was being taken out of reading this because I know that the word bridge and the vision of a bridge is really important to Viktoria. So I was just thinking back to a discussion we had around that. So her work is to bridge the gap between the dream business owners have and the results they desire. In the process, they also gain a deep sense of self-acceptance, self-awareness, and self-actualization. Viktoria has been called a pivotal change, practical and produces results, effective and to the point, and the wind beneath my wings. Her mission is to empower business owners to bust through anything that keeps them from growing a profitable business. Viktoria, welcome.
Thank you so much, and I'm just so very grateful to be able to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I cannot be in a better place than amongst these giants here, so I'm really excited.
No, we're definitely happy that you're bringing some diversity and some much needed different energy to the room. So that's wonderful. Thank you for that. So it sounds like you're dealing with change on a very constant basis, and as I know you, I know that you are also very much focused on sustaining that change and on making change that lasts and really is something that sticks. So why don't you tell us a little more around that?
Yeah, I became really passionate about moving people through obstacles and objections that they might have either internally or from the outside. And once moving past those through things that could, be present in just not having focus, falling off the horse from time to time and not to really climb back or climb back really, really slowly, losing motivation, not being clear enough. I do a lot of work similar to Ravi, so he already beautifully set the stage up for me, because I work a lot with them as well on clarity and what do they really want. So in business, I usually say this, but in our business can really grow to the extent that we grow. So ultimately, even if we work with the business, even if we work with how to overcome something that became their issue at this point in time, ultimately, we often go back to what might be certain things in them that can stay in the way. So my passion was really about to create lasting change, because I saw it so many times that people sign in to have programs and take programs, and then they get really excited. And then after the program is done, 2 weeks goes by, and then the high is gone. And then they just not really, they bought a ton of books, and then they bought, additional programs. And then I actually stole this from a friend of mine, but all this becomes a self-help. So it's not a self-help, but a self-help. So it's not me who came up with this very smart thing, but nonetheless, I thought it's a really great way to put it. And I really wanted to create something that can help people to sustain this momentum, and what is needed in to be placed for that. And despite big changes despite challenges. And I just wanted to add one thing, is that because when I was kind of sorting through in terms of what might be a topic that I wanted to be really part of, big change was my pick, because I think change in my life, how it showed up, that it can be a fantastic thing. It can be something that can lead me and us to what we want and to really go after our desire. And if we are willing to pay the price, and if we are courageous enough, then we can get there, and it's fantastic. And big change can be a huge source of fear as well. And so what I really love about coaching, and what I really dedicated so much time to this profession, and because I get to help not only my life, my coaching changed my life completely, hands down, and it's much better. But it's not only changing my life, but seeing all of these students go through the program as a TA, of course, and to be really supporting them, and to see that throughout the 4 modules, how their mind opens up, and how they are taking things in, and how they are practicing, and just really becoming a part of their life as well, is an amazing source of joy to me. And it's also amazing joy to me when I experience that with my clients. So I'm really excited about change, and at the same time, I sometimes really hate it too. So,
And it's two parts of the same coin, right? That's not kind
yeah.
of opposites. That's just kind of the way it is. You almost can't have one without the other. But sorry, I'm supposed to just be facilitating.
I agree.
So thank you very much, Viktoria. Yeah, we will check in with more on that in a second. Everybody, if you have any questions that are coming up for you as you're hearing these wonderful coaches, all of them professionally certified coaches, introduce themselves, put it in the chat already. We have a little bit of a delay between what we're saying and what you're hearing. So I'm always very curious for you to send in your questions as early as possible, so that I can include them into the arc, into the logic of the show. So I might not be able to answer them right away, but I might get there during the course of this episode. So please, whatever question you have that's coming up for you, please put that in the chat. And as you're doing that, we are moving over to Paul. And Paul, over the past 30 years, Paul Gossen has conducted more than 100 business transformation, you could also say change projects worldwide, among those early stage companies, as well as dozens of Fortune 500 companies around the world. He is the CEO and founder of the Q Drive Institute. Paul is a global expert in questions-based consulting and facilitation. As a CEO coach, he has spent years asking key questions to assist executives to formulate an ideal company strategy. He also works with executive teams to accelerate their company transformation. He is a specialist in executive team alignment and working with technical teams of engineers, technology experts, and scientists. Paul, welcome.
Hey, thank you.
So, transformation. You might say that's another word for big change. Why are you passionate about transformation in general and enterprise transformation in particular?
Well, that's a good question. Where does passion come from? I think the answer to that question is always, we look to our energy source, which is vision, value, and mission. And so the more that you can personally connect to those three, the more that passion, confidence kind of naturally come forth. So great question. Thank you, Fabian.
Yeah, thank you. So, Paul, what does big change mean to you? As opposed to, I don't know, small change, but where's the threshold for you between saying, okay, this is regular run-of-the-mill change, and now we're talking about big change. This deserves the label of transformation. Where's that line for you?
Well, for me, I kind of think back to my youth as a teenager being raised in the wolves by a bunch of NLP gurus around the age of 15. And, so for me, you can put that on a scale. So over here is, small change. And then, in the middle here is a breakthrough. And up here is a transformation. And they're all the same. And in fact, many ways, the small shift is actually more powerful than the big transformation, because when you iterate a series of small shifts, they kind of naturally build an unstoppable momentum. So you could say that transformation is automatic, transformation is natural, transformation is inevitable, but it begins with a tiny, tiny shift, or just even one of those little questions that gets you thinking in a new way.
Thank you. So, Viktoria, that just kind of makes me think of what you were describing before. I'm just curious what's coming up for you as you're hearing Paul talk about how huge change, big change, transformational change, and little change, small change is kind of all the same because they form parts of the same picture in a way. Well, what's coming up for you around that?
Yeah, I was passionately shaking my head when he said that, because I couldn't agree more. And indeed, basically from week to week or bi-weekly or monthly, depending on how I work with the clients, rarely we set out a huge change that is really gonna uproot them or change them something, or completely abandon a job or whatnot. Is it possible to go to a coach and having, being coached on that? Of course. But the bulk of my work is really building consistency and building commitment to themselves and to what they are saying that they're going to do. And so those are small changes most of the time. And I think measuring these changes is very important. So I love the scaling questions, not overusing them, but I do have a scaling question in my session notes, or whenever I go through certain things that I might ask them when a session gives that option. But I like scaling questions because over time, I usually work with business owners for 6 months, so that's a long time. So for them to be able to look back, and again, I'm not asking this scaling question every single time, but at the same time, I am trying to putting into perspective for us and for them too, of where they've been, how are they doing, and where are they now. And most of the time, the reason for it actually is because most people don't celebrate. And most people kind of forget how much they really developed and how far they've come. So for us to be able to just look back and see how tremendous of a work they have done and how certain things have shifted for them that they come up with and they tell me, and now we can look back on those and measure those, I think that is a very important component of my work with them.
All right, thank you, Viktoria. Ravi, I'm having a question from the audience that I would love to point your way, because of your background. So we have Laura who's saying, I'm currently working to help create a big, very abrupt mind shift in my organization around the internal culture. What is your advice for me to support management and staff in embracing it?
Well, I mean, with culture and shifting mindsets, I think what I would first do is some sort of a general inquiry in terms of where things are. I think a baseline is required in terms of what everyone thinks, and even getting an assessment of, for instance, culture. I mean, is there a consensus in terms of what clearly is the culture of the organization? I think that would be a starting point. With that, I mean, unless we sort of get that background information, we understand how everyone is viewing that, we don't really have clarity in terms of what next to do. I think that background work, I think interviewing the key stakeholders, and also, I mean, if the organization has done, like some sort of an assessment throughout the organization where a culture, an analysis, if that exists, going through that. But initially, first step is, making sure that we actually understand how everyone, the key stakeholders, think of the culture, right? Then once we've done that, then we sort of want to define where we want to take it. So, and often that can be where the management comes in. It's a little bit like, the chocolate cake. It sort of rolls down from top to bottom. And so culture, has that tendency to trickle from top to bottom. So we sort of have that defining, okay, where do we want to take this? Then the top management owns up to it. Once they've embodied those behaviors, then only can they ask the next level of management to take it over. And then they can ask the next level. If, the top management just wants people somewhere in the middle to, okay, you guys need to embody this culture, and they don't embody it themselves, then, very quickly people in the middle will be like, hey, how come these guys don't have to do it? So typically there would have to be that top-down thing that comes with it. But yeah, very clearly, so I would, make sure what is the information that is coming in from the general inquiry? Where are we with the culture? How do we want to define it? And then, then we start with the top management. Once they've embodied it, goes to the next level, whatever is the 3, 4, 5 levels of the organization. We map it on a timeline, and then we roll with it.
Thank you. It definitely shows that you are working with leadership and with executives, kind of holding them accountable, and having access to them. So Laura says, thank you, Ravi. Very helpful. Paul, you enthusiastically gestured towards the camera. I want to challenge you a little bit around this. What if there's something like a tool being introduced, like this culture change being tool driven without much kind of the work leading up to it, and kind of just putting in a tool and saying, here, this is completely different than everything we've done before, now do it. And what if you're in middle management? What if you're trying to hold down the fort? You're trying to lead the people that are looking up to you. You're trying to placate the people that, bestowed this on you. What if you're not completely in charge of the change? How can you take ownership anyway?
Well, it's interesting how you're defining this, because it's absolutely natural. It's human nature to resist change, right? And so, we're always, when we're working with an organization, you always have to understand the counterforce, which is the resistance to change. And so if you want to create willingness to change, you really got to ask, what's in it for me? And I challenge Ravi a little bit on the top down, because you always need some top down, but actually often you get the most traction with middle out. And so in organizations, that's where we really change the organization, is from the middle out. And so for those middle managers, you got to understand that there's too much to do and not enough time. And so kind of bolting on some tool or process, a classic example would be coaching culture or agile, where it's kind of just thrown in and now do this. And it's a Me Too program where everyone else is doing coaching culture. So, you guys should do it too. Versus giving people completely practical tools that they can use right away to solve problems and save time and energy. So that kind of self-evident utility, if you can't get that in a very short run rate, then it's just another stupid distraction introduced by senior management and another failed initiative. And let's face it, 80-90% of initiatives are failed already. So it just goes on the pile of things that we said we were going to do, what we didn't do. So overcoming that resistance fast is the name of the game. And I really challenge every coach to transform from a one-on-one coach to an executive coach to a team coach to an organizational coach, and just build the skill set and the mindset, and generate a successful practice doing that and running those kind of programs. Come on in, the water's fine. And solution-focused coaches have the core skills and technology to make that transition just naturally. So go for it.
Yes. Guy, I realized that you, first of all, we haven't heard from you in a while, and you were living vicariously through Paul as he was talking. And I wanted to come to you anyway, because I know that you have experience with that sort of position. So I wanted to come to you and see what's coming up for you.
First of all, I'm going to have to, Paul, you're not going to like him, because I'm going to have to send you the medical bill for the nodding that I'm doing all the time. You and Ravi are so right. And not to turn the spotlight on myself, but I was nodding furiously because there's this tendency of prescribing change because it looks good or because it makes sense and not integrating it with their core values or the culture that already exists. And the results can be not only useless but quite painful. And if I may share a personal story, when I was working for Facebook, who I often describe as a tech child that was kind of injected with steroids to make them balloon up because it just grew rapidly in a way that culture and values never really took hold in the way that resonated with me. So it was this massive organization that within years had like thousands of employees and was around the world. And while I was working for Facebook, they introduced a coaching workshop, which I thought was really, really exciting. And yet, while I really took on board the questions that were asked there, and they were all geared to helping me sell more, but I really loved the questions of what would you do if you weren't afraid, or what do you want? You know, some really key coaching questions. The result, especially in middle management, was a few posters on the wall, a few catchy lines of if you dream it, you can do it, all this stuff that not only doesn't mean change, but when you're dealing in a situation of personal growth and personal professional growth as an employee, as a manager, they create a disconnect, they break rapport. Someone is not being heard, a situation is not being truly examined through the lens of values and growth, and it can break rapport in such a way that happened with us, where I left because I just didn't want to have anything to do with these people who didn't speak my language. Because when it comes to culture and when it comes to change, when Ravi was speaking, what showed up for me was that it's about the meeting of the external and the internal. Something is shifting externally that I need to meet with my own personal transformation so there can be alignment. The same about my personal change that no longer matches my environment. You can't smash them together and just hope that things work out. So when it comes to change, especially with organizations, it's about small, huge wins. It's about tiny little steps that are actually really enormous, that gently introduce change in a scalable way that doesn't freak anyone out, that everyone feels acknowledged and heard and celebrated, and where you use the best of the organization and the best of the people you have to create more of what you want, which is so really in the pocket of what solution-focused coaching is. And that's the kind of change I wish Facebook had a few years ago. From last I checked, they haven't really done very much about it. And it's the one I'd like to see more organizations do, celebrating the amazing people that work there who are coming together and want to meet change and want to celebrate it by celebrating the people and the small steps they can take to conquer that change.
I'm curious to see if our Facebook feed is still up or whether it's been shut down. So if we look at this through the individual level and not so much through the organizational one, because there is where I'm especially interested to talk to you about, Guy. What if I have a client as a coach that is going through something like that, where there is, you know, this culture of, yeah, let's change, but not really do anything. And maybe they want to change something around them. Maybe they want to have a positive impact, but they feel like a small cog in a big machine. I know this is not the easiest of questions, but you know, what might you do as a coach in order to support them?
Just to clarify, when someone feels they might be too small a part in creating big change? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. So classical middle management kind of thing, like all the responsibility, none of the power, basically. How do you coach somebody when they don't have the feeling they can actually change something?
First place that I went to when you asked that question was a question of faith and of vision. Does this person see a future where that change is possible? And do they own the possibility that they could contribute to that change? Because if they don't believe that they can do anything, that's where you begin. There has to be a strong, clear vision and a desire that is unstoppable to create that change. Get rid of all of those gremlins and just focus on what if. Just focus on the power and the impact of that change. Getting them on board and owning that possibility and owning that future for themselves creates the connection to actually making it happen. And when it comes to change that is so big, and it could be about something that's global, it could be about something in the community or even in your life, that is terrifying stuff. It's terrifying even for me, and I'm a coach. People rarely come into coaching and say, I want you to change everything about my life and everything that I've ever done, and I want full transformation, and that's what I want. That doesn't really happen. People come to coaching because there is change happening and they need to adapt to it, or because they feel that there's a discomfort in their comfort zone and they feel that change needs to happen. When it comes to creating big change, and that's qualitative, it's whatever you define as big or small. It's not for me as a coach to define. Start small. Start small and build. Build success. Champion the small changes you've already introduced, and just let the momentum and the energy and the joy of the creation create more of that. Because this is why I was so passionate about this topic. Big change, everything is big. Depends on how you look at it. And it depends on how you celebrate it. So just beginning in your local, in your mind, in your home, in your family, in your community, something small can make a huge, huge effect. And all of us here as coaches have seen how what we do as individuals, not in our coaching practice, but in the connections that we have with each other and in our community, create such a huge effect because we're just being and we're embodying what it is that the Erickson principles are, and we're just creating change in small but giant ways.
Small but giant. Yeah. Viktoria, I'm kind of thinking of you because while the situation or the circumstances are different from the question that I just asked Guy, he brought up these gremlins and these doubts, and I would imagine that the business owners that you work with wrestle with those on a quite a constant basis as well. How do you support them around that? So I'm thinking about things like, when is it time to pack up my bags and accept employment? Like when do I know that I should kind of stop? I don't know if you've ever dealt with that. So that's just a hypothetical. When is it time to reach out to new clients or maybe a new tier of clients? When is it time to introduce a new product or just kind of completely change what I've been doing? So one of my favorite examples is always YouTube. Started out as a dating site and failed as a dating site, and is now the second largest search engine in the world, right? So it's everything but a failure, but they had to pivot at some point. So how do you help clients recognize and act on situations like that?
Yeah, thank you. It's going to be a little bit of a multi-layered answer, but one of the things that came up to me while Guy was speaking is that connecting back to the vision and connecting back to what they really want and what they really desire. I actually really like that word. What they really desire is actually not just a one-time thing. So what I've come to realize is over time is that we occasionally have to go back to it from time to time, and it might change, it might shift. So I often work with very established professionals. They already have a working business, they already have a team, they already have things going for them. They really want to grow their business, and then really breaking through that glass ceiling, really again growing themselves so they can grow the businesses, where we often kind of make that bridging, stretching area that we work on. So often I ask them, about mission or values, and they say, yeah, this is it, and I know it, and it's done, and I got it. And then we start to work, and then when we dig deeper, then it comes to the surface, really, that it might not be as clear now. It might have been clear when they started the business, or why they became an attorney or a doctor, but now with some years gone by, certain things have shifted, and it's not as clear, and it might not be as connected to them anymore. So certain questions regarding team culture, what kind of leader am I, always, or not always, but often stem back to this, that what am I really setting now? as a context now, that what is it that is clear to me and it's not clear to me? What is it that is clear to the team and it's not clear to the team? What might have been shifted? And if things shifted, that's great. How are we going to sit down? How am I going to sit down with myself first and figuring it out? And there's no right or wrong in that sense. And how am I going to translate that to the team as well? So that's one answer to kind of what I'm thinking to your question. And the other thing is, of course, as a coach, it's not for me to tell them of when to do and what. So that is very important. And one thing that I really love about coaching, I am, of course, very interested in psychology. And I think most of us are here might be really interested in how we humans work and what's going on and how the brain works is one of my passion, NL people and, all of those things. So, and what really, really attracts me to coaching is that we truly believe that the coachee, the client is fine the way they are. They are not flawed. There's no problem to fix. They are coming to us because they might have certain slight loss of focus, or to me at least, or they might have some kind of stuckness in their life. They got stuck. They might have a blind spot, right? That we all do. That's why coaches have coaches too. So and my job is, and it is so important in the classes too that I assist, is that first to really create that space for them, really create that trust, building their important rapport that Guy mentioned before, because without that nothing happens. And so once that kind of setup is done, the trust is built, and I am really believing them. I am really believing them in them, and I really believe that they're fine the way they are. And I am just here as a tool, as a partner, to help them through that, whatever that is. And so I don't know. I mean, I'm just so passionate about this part because I've seen truly miracles in terms of what certain things for people clicked in the moment. It sometimes doesn't take a long time. Sometimes it takes months. But most of my clients, if I ask them what might have been the value that you take away today, often I hear that I was heard. And for people to be able to, even in business, share what they are going through, and me being there for them, holding the space and creating the trust with them, often they find the solutions. So it's not for me to say that it's time for you to hire someone or it's time for you to do this and that. Now, to be completely transparent, I do have clients who I have more of a consultant kind of relationship with. So I do have clients who I work with that like that. But when I'm coaching, that is not the aim. And so I don't know if it answered you, Fabian.
Yeah, no, I think that is indeed multi-layered, and it also brought a lot of things up for me. So I'm gonna take a host's prerogative minute here and just also share something. So one of the words that you used what's clear. So this clarity, I think, is also very important around change, right? And what is it that we're talking about? Because any change looks like a big, huge monster when you don't know exactly what's actually going on and what are we talking about. So I work with a lot of people that then come with questions like, should I move to a different country? Should I change my job? Or things of that nature. And one thing that I like to do is something borrowing from design thinking is prototyping, and just throwing a bunch of different prototypes at the wall and seeing, so what are some permutations of the combinations of decisions you could make, and not just one or two, so that you're in this kind of binary thinking where it's like, oh, it's one or the other, and what am I not doing, but 5, 6, 10 different prototypes of what my life might look like in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. And that way, thinking through that, all of a sudden, very often what the result is, it's not necessarily that I want to force them to go there, but very often what organically emerges is, wow, my life can go in a bunch of different directions, and I like a lot about all of them, right? It takes off this pressure of like I have to live up to this perfect way of life, and it's just like, yeah, there is a lot of unknown things, but there's a lot to look forward to, no matter which of these comes to pass. And so that's one that I really, really like, I have to say. So sorry for having you as my captive audience here as I'm sharing that. But so another opportunity for big change, actually, hang on, let me change the slide here, is an offer that we have. Sorry, I kind of have to, or I want to share this with you just because I think going through coach training has been a big change for all of us. And you can make this change in the biggest possible way for yourself if you sign up to the Ericsson Summer Intensive Training. There's two cohorts of this. One is from June 24th to July 25th, and one is from July 29th to August 22nd. They each start at 7 a.m. Pacific time till 1 p.m. Pacific time. So it's very intense, as the name suggests. I've met quite a few of the coaches that come out of these summer intensive programs, and I gotta say, they are some of the best graduates that I've encountered, because it's just really diving in there. It's really going at it full tilt. Um, Unfortunately, right now, of course, it's not in person, but even the online modality is something that Ericsson has been doing for, I think, more than a decade at this point. So that's not something that's cobbled together. That's something that's tried and tested. So if you're looking to make a change in your life, that's a good one. Like I can tell you that is something that I've been still. I'm still going through all the wealth of the material. So if you want to do kind of some soul searching, some deep dive into how can you set yourself up for success, the people around you for success, the summer intensive program, definitely a strong recommendation of mine. Right now you're getting 15% off plus a business building package, so you can make it actually, yeah, the biggest change possible by that being how you live your life, how you earn a living, and how to make that the way that you show up in the world.
I have to jump in there, Fabian, if I may. I was so happy when I heard that Ericsson was doing this, because it's such a lovely example of how an organization embraces change, because this used to be in person and it's about adapting internally to meet the external changes. And with everything that's going on in the world right now, people want the tools now. And they want to be able to, if someone's excited and motivated to learn about coaching, yes, of course they could do it once a week or twice a week over the next few months. But if they want to dive in, here you go. Here's all the ways that you can experience change and work with change in one way. And it's actually, it just puts such a smile on my face, because it's so meeting where the world is now, because we need this, and the world needs more of this kind of thinking and this kind of philosophy. So I'm excited about it.
Wonderful, thank you, Guy. And you were talking about Ericsson as kind of even more like a movement, right, than just a school. And I think that the summer intensive is really a way to experience that, in the sense that you're really just diving in there and just seeing the world through these eyes with these particular set of values.
Absolutely, and you know what? It goes back to alumni, but one of the best kept secrets about signing up for a coaching program with Ericsson is the people you meet, because it's not something that you advertise. Hey, do this and you get all of this, plus you meet really cool people. But it's the people that you meet, whether it's the intensive or during the art and science of coaching, that form this community of practice of people who are going through the same change as you, trying to apply the same techniques in their lives, in their businesses. And it is such a vital component of not just the learning, but the application. So when it comes to everything that you're thinking of doing as a coach, the people, and this is where I'll kind of say, I know our time's up. When you think of change in your world, think of the people who are part of your world and who will be affected by the change, and work as humans to tackle that change. Because if there is something that is happening in your life that you feel change needs to happen with, it's probably not just happening to you. If there is something in your relationship that you need coaching with, it's being experienced from the other way. So remember that you are not alone in this, and change is universal. So when it comes to an organization or relationship or any kind of goal that you set for yourself, where change is a part of it, It's not just you. So there's power in you coming together and working with other people to actually tackle this change and kind of making it your own and transforming it into something that is a strength.
Wonderful. Thank you, Guy. Ravi, let's go to you for some last thoughts as we're already approaching the landing here. What is something that you either want to highlight of the things that's already been said, or what is something you would like to add that we haven't been able to address yet?
All right, so maybe we can touch one of the things I've learned with change, small, big, that's for people to define. But I would say really consider when change is happening, who does it impact? And that's really important because if that is not taken into consideration well, down the road, one could get easily blindsided. So I think just really mapping out the stakeholders, who stands to gain, who stands to lose, and how do I sort of get more and more people on board with this change process, the more number of people it affects, and even really understanding like where the power maps of the organization are, or if it's an individual, if it goes to the family, just changing jobs can affect family members. Have we had that discussion? So as a coach, I think what coach would probably help with change is really thinking through this, and then looking at maybe how that influence campaign. So you mentioned that individual who didn't feel that powerful to make change in an organization. So with that individual, are they clear enough? Second, who do they need to influence? Who is it going to affect? Who do they need to get on board? It's like that old saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. It's the same thing with influence, right? If you're looking for change, you probably should have gotten all these people in your influence bag before you needed the change. The second best time is right now. And I think so, just thinking through how this change is affecting people, getting them on board, doing that continuously would be, I think, something in my experience that should not be missed.
Wonderful. So much in there. Thank you, Ravi. So, Viktoria, same question as we are unfortunately already kind of wrapping up here. What is something that you either like to highlight from the things that we have mentioned, or what is something that you would like to add that you really want people to take away from this discussion today?
I definitely learned more about the trickling down, trickling out kind of ways in the companies. So in the bigger picture and with more people on board from all of you. So that is fantastic. Thank you for that. It might sound corny, but I think the most important thing in change and in life is full of changes. That's what it is. Life is just a bunch of series of changes. So unfortunately, most of us are not really taught how to deal with changes when we are young. And I think that is something that we can give our children as they grow up, to kind of let them know gradually, of course, of how to deal with change and how to deal with so-called failure or setback, which are not, of course, as we know, they are just another stepping stone toward what we want. So most of us don't really get that of how to deal with changes. So right now is the best time again to go after Ravi. So if we didn't have that before, to really be aware and really start to work on of how am I really relating to change, and how can I change it? What needs to shift in me to be able to reach what I want? And so sort of learning that flexibility, Bruce Lee, be like the water kind of thing. I think that is so important. So that's what I would say could be the most thing for me to take away, is just to go back to the basics after all, and to keep working on myself and to keep dealing with changes.
Thank you. And also thank you for bringing up something that now seems so obvious to me, that of course no discussion around big change is complete without considering what impact are we having on our children, both on an individual level and on a generational level. So definitely thank you for bringing that in as well. And Paul, same question. What about you? What is something that you want people to take away from this stream, if it's only one thing?
Well, I would invite each person here today to place in your future a version of yourself that is stepping into mastery. And so when you say mastery of change, what could that mean? And a couple magic words come to mind. The first one is integration. Change is only as powerful as our ability to integrate the change. And from an ecology point of view, another magic word would be alignment. To what degree have we aligned with that change? So just imagine that future version of yourself that has become a pure master of change, scaling from the personal to the team, corporate, as high as you want to go. You could become the bodhisattva who changes the world just with your presence. The presence of you transforms the experience of life for every person on earth. So put that in their future as if you wish, and remember that mastery is calling you. Did you hear it? Mastery is always calling you.
Thank you very much, Paul. So let's heed that
Thank
call.
Thank you for the bell, Paul. I missed the bell. Thank you.
So let's heed that call. Everybody, I'm curious, what are you taking away from today's stream? Everybody who's watching, please put in the chat, what is something that you're taking away? What have you created for yourself by being here, by listening, by engaging? Any questions that you might still have, please also put them in the chat, and we'll make sure that the panelists get them. So at Ericsson, our mission is to change the world one conversation at a time. So we hope that we have lived up to that today. And I invite you similarly to also think about what might be a conversation you need to have, you want to have, that will change the world just this little bit for the better. So think about that. Let us know what you're coming up with, what you're taking away from today. Much love from all of us. And we're taking a week off next week, so we're back on May 19th. Hope to see you then. And until then, change the world one conversation at a time. Thank you so much.